It's time to be woke. Take off your shades, it helps see through the smoke. Cause the wicked hide behind the cloak. And if you stay in the mist, you gon' be soaked. So listen up, cause this hair of the dog. What's real, what ain't? Is this the fog or smog? Cause there's a difference when you breathe it in. So don't let the corporate media take you for a spin. This that morning show, they put you in the know. So I hope that you ready, cause all we do is go, go, go. Yeah, come get your info, you gon' be like, whoa. Hair of the dog, we bout that, ayy. We in the zone, we out here, yeah. Speeding the facts.
Good morning. It is Monday, and I'm Andy Kennedy, very tired, and it's been raining for 2 days, so I'm in a great mood. I'm not really in the mood for talking by myself this morning, so I'm going to just go right to the beginning of the show and say, welcome, Kerri Barber. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Andy. How's everybody's Monday doing? How is things? How is things?
So what's new?
You really want to do this? Okay, so I'm just gonna put it out there because we've been trying to be open and honest on this particular show, adhering to ethics. This will be my last show on the DLF network. So I will have details coming out. I'm going to be speaking with the CEO of my union this morning. But there's some issues going on that I'm not comfortable with. And for those of you who know me, have known me for years, I always will side with people and ethics. So at this point, the majority of what I can say is Glenn Greenwald, and I feel him completely. And if it could happen to Glenn, it can happen to anybody. So that's kind of where I stand today, but I will have some more details coming out because I feel like this is an important issue, obviously, if I'm willing to leave a network that I helped found over this particular issue. And the doxing has already begun. So I'm seeing it start to roll in, and it's not the first time, won't be the last. It's whatever.
And we've had, to be fair, we've had numerous conversations about, differences of opinion. But of course, we've always said on this show that being progressive is always taking the high road, and never going around that one pejorative that we say, because it's easy to not sometimes. Right. And it's a trap that really you can fall into. I'm not at liberty to talk about what's happened, obviously, but I will just say this. If you consider yourself to be an ally, then you're an ally to everyone. You don't pick and choose who you're an ally for. If you're a quote unquote progressive and believe in those policies that convert our current society into a more just one, where we can come to an understanding and agreement about what it takes to eliminate things like poverty and hunger and discrimination, because all of the old talking points to say that, well, those are just facts of life, it is just basically BS, right? And so that journey to getting to that place includes every single person. And it's convenient to say, well, it doesn't include these people because I disagree with them, right? Just because you disagree with someone doesn't make them less of a human being, right? And if you can feel that and you can justify that, then there's some real issues there, right? Coming to an understanding of why people believe what they do believe in a country, this is very US specific now, in a country that's been inundated with American propaganda that pits people against people for their entire lives, right? And we understand that that's a very hard thing to get over, right? We understand that there were 75 million people that voted for Donald Trump in the 2020 election, right? You can't look at that group as a group and say there's 75 million people that are white supremacists, right? You're assuming that the reason why that happened, and you can't do that, right? It's like saying that all white people are racist, or saying that all heterosexual people are homophobic. You can't group the people together. You can fight against those things, but you're an ally to everyone, and you can't stereotype an entire group that way. And I think I've probably gone on long enough. So that's the way I feel, Kerri.
Well, I think we've tried to do that. And if anyone looks back at the body of our work, we've had, badass fighters from Palestinian backgrounds who are looking for social justice and equality. And that is the right thing to do. By having the American Palestinian guest on or talking about them, we're not diminishing a Jewish population. What we're doing is pointing out that, hey, these are all people. We all live and breathe, and we all love our children, and we all bleed the same, and everybody should have a place and a voice. Whether you agree with specific tenets of their faith or not is immaterial. And then on that front, we've always tried to be ethical in our approach to journalism. And I always start with, is what I believe true? And I go out to find the information that maybe negates what my initial premise was, or find supporting evidence. And that's the way the journalism's supposed to work. And so it's not necessarily my opinion, but what do the facts say? And I think that we have done a pretty good job here. And we also have a very discriminating audience. So good morning, Shane. Good morning, Mike. And you guys are so wonderful at pushing back, or providing your own commentary that really helps round out the conversation. And that is exactly where it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to happen. Mike says, thanks, Uncle Andy. That needed to be a segment when Andy goes on his awesome rants. Deep thoughts with Uncle Andy. Yeah, I totally agree. Excuse me, I totally agree. But for me, I'm always going to side with ethics and the law, regardless of what I believe. And I think that most people who know me know that I have stood with people who I vehemently disagree with, but I am more than happy to lend my voice, my physical presence, to ensure that they have the same rights that are protected for other people. And the minute that and we see this over and over again throughout history, recent and long term, when you lean into, well, I don't agree with this person, whether it's race, religion, or orientation, and all of those protected classes, when you lean into, I don't agree with that person, so I'm going to sit back and not participate in their efforts towards equality and free speech, then what ends up happening is we all lose, because we are not united, we're divided. So recent example that came up was I had done this 3-part story on the ethylene oxide issue in Northern Illinois. And it was, I still believe, and unless somebody can prove me wrong, it is the largest cover-up in state history. We have over 326 deaths. And in that particular case, down south, you had the affluent neighborhood. Up north, where I focused on this story, was brown and black people. And the people in the affluent neighborhood, they were taken care of by the governor. he ordered that that plant was shut down. The people up north, brown and black, low income, social justice community, they're still dealing with it. And I took a lot of heat, threats and all of this sort of thing. But what was most painful for me personally was groups that I would have thought would have stood up and say, hey, this isn't right. And this was from environmentalists. This is from other, just across the board, anybody who had experienced that kind of detriment or risk to personal life, or, just being told that they don't matter, would have stood up for this issue, and they didn't. But then I got a call about 3 weeks ago from a person who was representing a specific niche group. And this happened to be an LGBTQ group. And this person wanted to get access to my work and all of my cited sources. So I was curious, why now, a year later, are you interested in this? And it was because the representative that I was able to demonstrate had participated in this cover-up was now running for higher office. And they wanted to stop that effort because this representative had at one time voted against marriage equality. So for me, that was a painful moment, that you didn't stand up when Black and brown people were dying, but now you want to use this work to stop this effort because at one time this person also did something that affected your community. And the problem with that, and as we've seen, is that representative, because the entirety of the marginalized groups didn't stand up, got reelected to state office and is now running for Senate. And do you think that other groups are going to stand with the LGBT effort now? Because those people were absent. And this is what I'm talking about when I say, if we are not all in this, if you are not willing to fight for somebody you don't even know, and perhaps maybe not even agree with, then you're going to lose out in the long run too. And it's really hard for people to see that. And honestly, I was talking to Rome, who he always surprises me. He's still wise beyond his years. And he reiterated the point. He's like, look, hurt people hurt other people. And that's really what it comes down to. If you are so in your own head and focused on all of those things that you feel have been done to you, done to your people, all of these other things, then there is no space to look out and see that, hey, these people need my help, and to build those allyships. So this is a situation we're in, and it's so easy for co-opting to happen in this particular environment. When we are segmenting ourselves and dividing ourselves, it doesn't really take much for someone else to come in and just drive a little wedge and make sure that you can't speak, that all of your work is being called into question, that your ethics are being called into question, and all of these things transpire from that. So I just want to be mindful. And then real quick, Pamela says, good morning. Hi, Miss Pamela, good morning. And then Mike says, those people did not step up because at that time, because the same team rule, I'm assuming you mean Team Blue, just like we can't criticize anything that AOC does, no matter how off base it is. I think that's a valid point. And, Andy and I still have disagreements over AOC in particular, but AOC in context of other politicians. But that's a disagreement we can have.
Yes, and believe it or not, we still speak.
Right. Right. We haven't tuned each other out. We're there. But that is the overarching point, right? You can criticize an individual action without doing the broad brush thing, right? Like, I can be critical of a vote or a policy decision, and I don't necessarily mean that I hate that person, or like cancel culture going the other way. Like, I am all in favor of cancel culture when it comes to racism and bigotry. I am not in favor of it when it comes to, well, that person made me mad on this vote.
Right.
And we're not. Yeah.
Exactly. Slight difference.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you and I don't agree exactly on everything, then I'm going to cancel you in
Mhm.
the movement and chastise you in public.
Right. Right. Exactly. So, yeah.
So
So there's
yeah, so now that was the lighthearted part of our show. Now we're going to get serious.
no,
Oh God,
no.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
So
So,
Tommy, are you glad? I'm glad you came today to the show.
Yeah, me too. I am too.
so
You
welcome,
see what
Tommy.
you see what your muckraking does? You see what your
Yeah,
muckraking does?
yeah, I know it's not a fun job. This is not for the faint of heart. But
It's not.
Tommy, thank you so much for joining us, and I love the work that you do. And you have such a unique style. So for those of you who are not familiar with Tommy Nation, I did post some links there. Go out and check out his work. But you know what? First time I heard you, I was like, okay, this is entertainment as well as because it's your delivery. You have I almost want to say old school vaudevillian delivery sometimes. And I'm like,
Appreciate that.
I was like, nobody is doing this. It's so unique. But then you have kind of this sing-song way of delivering information and content that is really thought-provoking. So
Good.
what is that all about?
Well, I'm glad you asked. And yes, it's awesome to be on Hair of the Dog show. By the way, I've been meaning to. I aggressive BN, and I've been meaning to get back to Andy. So, you're awesome, Andy.
Thank you.
Kerri, it's good to meet you face to face. Finally, we talked many times, but yeah. So I know we're all making hard decisions right now, right? We're all making hard decisions because I feel like there's only a couple of us with principles and values. The rest of it is just get along to go along, mainstream mentality, conventional wisdom, and social norms. And guys, there's only so much that a country can take. There's only so much a nation divided can stand, right? And in this COVID pandemic, I just wanted to be a singer, guys. I graduated from University of Texas at San Antonio, Bachelor of Arts in Music. And I wasn't thinking about anything else but singing songs. But then my government told me to stay at home. Then they didn't give me first of all, I was a bartender, so I was barely on the edge, right? Stayed home trying to figure out what I was going to do, right? 48 hours later, the House and the Senate bail out the banks, the military industrial complex, and Wall Street. 48 hours. I've never seen them work that fast before.
Oh wait, Tommy,
Never.
free market.
Never. Yeah, that's what everybody's still saying. So that was really trippy, right, Kerri? Like people are still saying free market. And in 48 hours, the top 3 industries get bailed out. And then the airlines do. And then 2 months later, we get $1,200. So then I started wondering about some stuff. And I got that enhanced unemployment at the time. Then Nancy Pelosi, she lost her Heroes Act. She told me to go back to work with 50% capacity. So she dropped me off a cliff. Here, and the enhanced unemployment ran out. And I started to realize, guys, that I realized it for a long time before that. Barack Obama. I have a feeling he's not getting out of the wars. Neither is Trump. Neither is Biden. I knew it was a big club. You ain't in it, but the scope of how little they care about us and how much we take and we go along to get along. This is what we're saying. There's only so much you can do before you're a doormat, and we're past doormat. We are long past doormat to the point where they literally don't even have to pretend that they care about us anymore. They don't. They rape people in their office buildings. What are you going to do about it? So you're going to vote for these 2 parties anyway, right? So some of us have to take a stand. I know we're canceling Dr. Seuss right now, but a person's a person, no matter how small, like Andy was saying. I really believe that Dr. Seuss, he was a racist. But to be fair, it was World War II, okay? The Japanese. It was a thing. It's not excusable. I'm not saying it's excusable. But he came back to be the most progressive-minded person of all time.
Okay, so you brought up Dr. Seuss, and I read all the books to my son, Mr. Brown Can Moo, but so he was along the line of like the old Archie Bunker And what I thought was interesting about that is it was the publishing company themselves who were pulling it. It wasn't external people. It was a publishing company going, wait, these particular titles just don't fit. They just don't fit. So we are going to do the socially responsible thing and pull the titles. But then what came out of that was everybody going, oh, you're canceling Dr. Seuss. No, the Dr. Seuss publisher is saying these just aren't appropriate anymore. And being able
I understand that. And they could do that. But let me tell you, Kerri, I see people on Facebook all the time talking about how Dr. Seuss was a racist. They're smearing him. Okay, if a publisher wants to do that to their books, that's fine. But you can't just tell half the story. Okay, half the story is a lie. The rest of the story is he went to Japan, he went to all these places, realized he was wrong, and he came back. He changed, he adapted, he grew, he progressed. So that's what like Eddie said, that's the human journey. And if you can't give people a chance to do that, then what are you here in the movement for? I'm just wondering.
Malcolm X was the same one, right? I remember reading the Alex Haley version of it. But real quick, Amber, good morning. Hi. Amber says good morning, my lovelies. She's always so nice. But
we don't deserve it, quite honestly.
We don't deserve it, not at all. But reading the Alex Haley version, it's a powerful witness to that time, that same time period. And then you move with Malcolm through that evolution where he actually came back from Mecca. Well, he had the epiphany in Mecca and saw a Muslim community from all walks of life, all, I hate to use the word race because it's such a weird construct, but different colors, different backgrounds, different countries, different languages, but they were united in this faith. And the true nature of the faith, peace, love, all of these sorts of things. And so when he brought that back to the United States, he was a changed individual. That was part of his journey. So I am eternally grateful to Mr. Haley for including that, because I think that is the journey that we all take in our struggle and that sort of thing. So yeah, you bring up a good point. So let me ask you this now, as you're doing this from your own perspective, your experience that you described here, now you're putting it out into the public sphere. We have been so fortunate and blessed to have a very good audience who, like I said, will gently correct us. How are you finding the situation and the pushback, and what's that like for you?
It's an interesting dynamic because we just had a power change. The Democrats have the Senate, the House. At the time, Trump was in office. And I've seen it's a very interesting dynamic. I don't know if you agree with me or not, guys, but y'all let me know, because I wondered this too. So the Trump people seem to be more resilient, or not resilient, but receptive to the message that the government really doesn't give a shit about us. I mean, they want small government. They wanted small government in Trump. And I really don't understand a lot of conservative ideas because I'm not. But I think they finally came to the conclusion that this is just a big club. And but on the other hand, my own people, the liberals, literally are in power and they're drunk on it. So it's so weird because the kids in cages are now detention centers. And so it's so weird, Kerri. Like I get weird mixed messages. Okay. It's just like from people who really did think the kids in cages were kids in cages all along and weren't just partisan puppets. I'm fine. Okay. But now, for the other people who love the reason that the Democrats have the Senate and the House and the presidency, I am now a Ron Paul toady. I'm a Russian asset. I am now a libertarian. Oh. And also,
you do fit the profile, Tommy. I just have to,
I'm a boogaloo boy. I'm all that.
Goodness. Wow.
So, it's just so weird, people.
I was having this conversation with Pamela yesterday because she forwarded me an article about the kids in cages, and we were going through it, but it was interesting to me because I had done this full story under the previous administration about the UN human rights violations that we had racked up because we had literally outsourced, because we're good at that. Pamela brought that up. We're good at outsourcing. We outsource and we now pay Mexico to do the detention centers on their side of the wall, and we have continued and refunded that. So families are being separated on the Mexico side so that we don't have to actually, it's not us, it's them, even though we're paying them. And so those human rights violations are still there, still precipitated at the same time. Yes. We just had a meeting with China in Alaska to condemn them for the right. Uyghurs.
Exactly. And for the Uyghur population. I mean, we are the biggest people of kicking the can down the road and passing the buck. It is just ridiculous, guys. We have to stop. We have to stop and stand for our principles and values. And that's why I'm doing Tommy Age Politics. Because we got to stop. We have to really just get serious. Get serious about our own behavior and our own country. We do.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned you're in Texas, and Texas has 2 of 35 swing districts. These are the districts that voted heavily for Obama in 2008, and then in his reelection bid, and then flipped to Trump. Now, to me, looking at a swing district like that, where you have this person who was coming in running on a hope and change, it sounded very populist. And then they flipped to another person who was running on a populist message, Trump. That to me is indicative of what you were talking about, that people are seeing that, it's a big club and the economics of everything that's happening to us, this economic divide, wealth inequality, things like that. So is that maybe where part of your audience is coming from? Like they want to learn and they already know that something's not right here.
Right. So that's exactly where it's coming from. It's coming from a grieved population of outsourcing of jobs, like you had just mentioned. A person who voted for Obama in 2008 and voted for Trump, and their jobs are still outsourced, and they still can't put food on the table for their kids. And then their government tells them to go and stay home without any solutions. And we have no universal health care, no living wage. Oops, Senate parliamentarian. And we're just, it's beyond the pale, guys.
Yeah.
And so it is really, it is
well,
beyond
what
the pale.
Could you say about a state that outsources Mother Nature to freeze everybody's pipes so they can sell water?
Yeah. Is this really capitalism? How's capitalism supposed to be?
No.
Wow.
No, it's really not. So, we have a question from the audience for you, Tommy. This is from Mike. I believe that this is going back to the Mr. Brown can move.
Dr. Seuss.
Yeah,
I figured it was going to be Dr. Seuss.
Okay, so the question is self-censorship still censorship?
Self-censorship? No, I don't think so. It's self-censorship. Let me think about this because I want to give you a thoughtful answer. Self-censorship. Censorship. Well, I think that's just controlling yourself. That's self-government. I don't know if it's self-censorship. I think it's self-government. I think that's controlling your behavior. So look, you, Mike, you have a regular job, right? So if you go into an office building, are you going to put your fingers up some girl's skirt and say, hey, mamacita, like Governor Cuomo is? No. You know why? Because you're self-governing. But Governor Cuomo, he never had to self-govern. You know why? Because you're going to vote for his party anyway. So he can do whatever he wants. You caught him. So what? Who cares? Right? That's what self-government does, right? That's what character does to you. These guys have never had to have character because we haven't asked. I'm asking. So I hope that answers your question, though.
Well, and I also think that you can't just with a broad brush just say that in terms of is it or isn't it? Because I think it depends on the situation, right? If you're looking in terms of why did the company that is responsible for publishing this material decide that they are no longer going to publish these specific stories. And is it because it's a greater good? It's an understanding that this is wrong and we don't want to be associated with that anymore? Or is it a business model that we may suffer financially because of these books as people, discover that, oh, well, there's a problem here, right? Like I go back to the exact same story I've told over and over about the Washington football team, right?
Mhm.
The owner of the Washington football team 10 years ago said, you need to change your name. Are you going to change your name? Over my dead body. 10 years later, it's now the Washington football team. Why? Because the people put pressure on Federal Express, on FedEx, and FedEx said, look, we're getting pressure now that our business model is in jeopardy because of the name of your team. So we're going to remove our funding to you. And it happened instantly, right? Why did that happen? Because people said, well, we're taking away the capital. It wasn't for the greater good. It wasn't because it should have been done. It was because, oh, I'm going to lose money.
Right.
Right. I think that has to be a consideration.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Hmm.
I mean, it is a consideration, especially if you're a CEO.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But then we look at like, I don't want to tout him as a pinnacle, but like Mark Cuban actually, and I don't know if he's still doing it, if anybody in the chat knows, but he and some of the players were funding unemployment matching for the employees that worked at the stadium during COVID. And then he himself has gone and done donations and other things, which we can argue is performative compared to his own salary. But I think that there are two examples there about doing the right thing by.
Well, and I think that that's again, along the same lines of a greater conversation about why we see that now, right? And I, on the other platform that I'm a member of, we were responsible for editing a video where Mark Cuban and Pavlina Chernova sat down, and she explained, MMT, monetary theory, to Mark, because he was interested, right? If you're a unfettered capitalist neoliberal person, that's probably the nicest I've ever said that. But if you are in that lane still, and you're a wealthy person, millionaire, billionaire, what have you, right? Then you don't care about that stuff, right? But if you do, right? Now, that the question is, okay, that's fine that you're thinking in terms of the greater good for society, right? For the same things that I believe in. Are you learning this because you want to make sure that people get taken care of, right? Like they're not right now. Or are you trying to deflect the pitchforks and torches that are possibly coming out to save your own ass, right? Like that's, again, another level. What's the intention, right?
Right. So one is
Rhea.
the Davos model and Bill Gates, and the other could be, something that is genuine, right? So good point. So Tommy, I'm going to put you on the spot here, and it's totally okay, whatever
What's
you
up?
answer. But are you familiar with MMT, and are you on board, or where are?
Okay, so I know that I know about modern monetary theory because of Ali Spawn, who's from the National Progressive Movement, but I'm not so researched into it. So I really can't tell you right now. I should have actually, Andy gave me a heads up on that, but I forgot to look it up. So.
Oh, that's okay. So, all right, you got homework to do, or, just follow us wherever we land.
It's okay.
I will,
buddy. You can make it up on the midterm.
Oh my God, for real though. That's my life. That is my life right there.
What we do is we are an MMT friendly media outlet. Okay. Which means that we don't necessarily are going to explain MMT on our show, but we are going to say that if we advocate for progressive policy of any kind, and you ask us how you're going to pay for it, then we basically say, okay, well, you're not a guest here anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm just saying that
isn't it funny how
the money question should never answer into the question, right? That is
why is that? Why do they do that?
People.
It's so weird. But like a lot of people that aren't like Jeff Bezos and stuff like that, they'll always ask. They're gonna have to pay for it. Have you ever seen that? I wonder why they do that. Some of my good friends, how am I going to pay for it? They see Mexicans coming out of a coyote wagon. Oh my God, who's going to pay for that? Why is it the first thing you come up with? How about how the kids? I don't know. It's weird.
Well, no, I think that is part of, when Andy opened with his segment, we are conditioned to think that, right? And before I was introduced to how money actually works on a federal level, I wondered that too, because, I was paying some serious property taxes. Where is this money going? So I get that. And then that also speaks to the swing districts, right? So those people who are struggling, and now all of this stuff is happening. So this is why understanding federal finances and how things actually work, because I guarantee you everybody in Congress knows. And how can I say that with confidence? Because you brought it up during the March timeframe last year. Mnuchin had his folks bringing in Congress members one by one to a small Congress room and explaining, or a small conference room, and explaining modern monetary theory to them individually. This is how we create trillions of dollars and give to Wall Street and oil and all of these things. He had to explain it to them all. So we know that this current crop already knows how it works. So when they come out and say to us, you can't have Medicare for all, you can't have income inequality, you can't have any of these things because how we pay for it, we know they're outright lying.
Okay, so modern monetary theory is just the realization, pretty much, I guess, I'm gathering, that we spend $800 billion on the military, we spend trillions on the wars, and we spend all of this money, but we can't have enough money for healthcare. Get out of here.
Basically,
okay.
Yes.
So then, yes, I'm with you guys, 100 million%. Okay, cool. Yeah, obviously.
Yes. It's called socialism for rich people and rugged individualism for poor people.
Martin Luther King said that, and Bernie Sanders said that. True.
Right.
So,
and Andy Kennedy.
It's settled science. It's Andy Kennedy. It's settled science, guys.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are watching, I know Amber's over there doing, she's watching us right now, and she's doing a little happy chair dance right now because we're talking about this. So I'm going to post in the chat. This is a really simple PDF version of Warren Mosler's book. The seven
deadly innocent frauds.
Yes, thank you, Andy. So it's 64 pages long. There are pictures, and it really goes through all of these things, these 7 big principles that we have been taught, learned it my entire lifetime, and they're not exactly accurate. Right. So it's this way of, and I'm going to call out to Alan Howell here, sheepdogging everyone into their nice little buckets so that we can continue on the wealth transfer upwards and nobody questions it. So that if your bootstraps are failing you, it must be your fault. It's not actually, that we have been lying about monetary policy all this time. So
yes. The most overused word in the United States is choices.
Yes. Oh, good Lord. Yeah, I don't have a choice when I have limited resources and things that are available to me. Like
yes, and black and brown people are poor on average because of their personal choices that they made.
Right.
Right. That we consistently hear. That I heard the other day from a white person. I said, dude, do you just realize that you just blamed victims of racism for racism?
That's true.
Victim blaming.
And I bet they'll just be, I bet they believe that they were kids in cages last year. You're right. And then this year they don't. I go the other way. Ted Cruz yesterday, he's trying to take pictures of the kids in cages right now. Now all of a sudden Ted Cruz, because the midterms, his heart bleeds for the kids in cages. You see how dishonest these people are? I mean, you want to talk about choices? I mean, Jesus Christ, we don't have one.
I will reiterate that we will never take him back.
Oh my God, Ted Cruz is such a slime ball. I swear to God. Take him back, Andy. Take him back.
No, and you're stuck with Justin Bieber too. I'm sorry.
I'll take Justin Bieber. I'll take Justin Bieber all day. Baby, baby, baby. Oh.
Nice. See, full on entertainment. Okay, so I want to get to some of these comments. So Amber did weigh in. She loves that the show keeps it real on Modern Money. Of course we do. Integrity. And then she says, we put ourselves on the defensive when we have to justify how to pay for it. It changes the dynamic of the conversation when we then blast through money miss. And that is an excellent point. If you're going to be an advocate for progressive policy, you've got to be armed with this knowledge. And then Shane, who's joining us from KRDT Media. Good morning, Shane. Shane says Congress lies all the time about how we have enough money or how we may not have enough money when we actually have the money either way. And that was exactly what you were just saying, Tommy. I mean, whether somebody is well versed in modern monetary theory or not, I think we all recognize, wait a second, you had all the money for this. And like Andy and I just did the show on the oil and gas industry with fracking and how it wasn't COVID, but we've been heavily subsidizing them for over a decade. And oh, by the way, a good large portion of the CARES Act went to oil and gas, right?
Dead. And the PPP went to Ruth Chris and corporations while they destroyed small businesses. Was that their oops or was it on purpose? I'm starting to think it's on purpose. Exactly. Well, you don't realize it's on purpose by now. Come on.
Right. So if you're driving out a mom and pop restaurant, then you're driving people to a Darden's restaurant.
Exactly. You are.
So it's the Walmart model, but facilitated by congressional policy.
Well, it's those mom and pop businesses that don't contribute to campaign funding.
I know they don't.
How do you expect me to do something if you're not going to line my pockets? Come on.
Exactly. And that's part of where all of these things from campaign finance reform to, and Tommy, you brought it up. Where else are you going to go? I think that was something that Steny Hoyer said, was it 2-3 years ago when he got busted for manipulating the Colorado race, the Senate race. He was recorded trying to manipulate a candidate to drop out because, we don't like democracy here. And then you had Nancy Pelosi live on TV standing next to Steny Hoyer going, yeah, well, we can. Where are you going to go? Right. So,
right. So the Democrats are our main opposition, guys. What do you think about that? And how can we do this? How can we get progressive? I mean, they're in power right now. Okay, I'm not trying to pick on.
You're talking about the Democratic wing of the one political party?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So let's talk about how we can get these progressive policies and everybody unified, because we have to stop this. So I should have the show too, Andy.
It's a simple thing.
What?
How do you affect capitalists? You take away their ability to make capital.
That's
right?
true.
The one thing that drives all of what we're seeing in these times is greed. Is getting money. It's getting paid. If you take that ability away, and it wouldn't take a lot of the population, right? But as long as mainstream media and the government have the ability to keep people fighting with one another, then that's never going to happen. Right? The GOP is looking at the progressive side and say, oh, we're good. They're never going to get it together. They're going to fight among themselves forever and ever. We're fine.
I mean, it's a calendar year. Now we're talking about, gun reform. I mean, I feel like every single year around this time, we're talking about the same issues. We're not talking about, like back in the old days, what we would do, like gallows, maybe some horses. Pitchforks.
Yes. Yeah, there's a really good book that you should read. It's called The French Revolution.
I was going there. And exactly. Thank you for putting it over there. I'm just saying the French didn't have all bad ideas. Okay.
No, but the French also
and
Okay. I'm totally with you on the guillotine thing. However, things are a little bit different here because, when we protest for basic free speech, equal protection, they use chemical weapons and live ammunition on us, right?
They do.
Are you talking about Monsanto?
No.
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Like the
talking
Occupy
about
Wall Street protests, right? Exactly.
right, and that was my chief complaint with the Biden administration rolling out all these gun laws, which I am not in favor of stupid shit. Let's enforce the laws we have. And oh, by the way, nobody mentioned the use of chemical weapons against our own people peacefully protesting. That's not in there. Why not? Why not?
Because apparently it's more it's more important to protect fences than people.
Yeah, well, the fences cost money.
Yes, they do. That came all the way back from the days of slavery, when we have to increase the narrative that property is more valuable than human life, and then we can say that slaves are property, right?
Right.
And then
Yes.
and then we can keep them.
That's how it was. That's how exactly.
And then people don't realize that when you threaten a fence by shaking it, that is violence.
What AOC told me. That's what AOC told me. It was violence.
Yeah, that whole thing about violence and performative, whatever. So
And you know how a fence fights back?
What? How?
When your tongue gets stuck to it.
That's a Canadian thing.
Christmas story, right?
Yes.
Ralphie.
Exactly. Ralphie. Yes. That was good. Okay, so poor David. David just piped up from YouTube and he says, "Hey, good morning. What did I miss?" Oh, David.
Oh, nothing.
Good morning to you anyway. Hope your new baby is good. We need more pictures. So put that in here. But so we are talking this morning to Tommy from Tommy Nation, who I think is just a delight to watch, because I get so tired of, and everybody's got their own style, do you? But the people who are just ranting to rant and just all that anger, like I said, your delivery is just so delightful. It's a melody in some points, and then you drive those points home because of your style. So where does that come from? You mentioned something about music. What's going on?
I graduated with a bachelor's in music, so I am a musician. That's what I was wanting to do, intended to do. That's my passion. Mm-hmm. But it's like Jesse, we were talking about this earlier, Andy. I am a little religious just because I like the stories in the Bible where, people that had integrity and principles, won the day. I like the good, feel-good stories, of course. So Jesus Christ, when he overturned the money changers. And then I had David and Goliath, when everybody was insulting, Israel, right? And Goliath, oh, you guys are puny little. I'm from Gad. I'm a giant. And then David, little shepherd boy. The only guy. You're going to let him mock the God of Israel? No, I don't. He was the only one that stood up, a little boy. And he knocked that giant the fuck out. Can I cuss? I'm sorry. But anyway.
It's okay.
No, it's okay. It's okay. On Friday, it's officially known as Fuck It Friday.
Okay, good. Thank God. Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. So the first time I do that on a nationally syndicated channel, I'll be canceled, like Dr. Seuss. But yeah, so people need to stand with principles and values. And so I don't care if it's religion that gets you to do it, or these Democrats or Republicans, but we got to stop. Like Andy said, everything has to stop being based on money. It used to be based on something more than that. Friends, family,
quality,
other things that last, things that are priceless. Remember those MasterCard? For everything else, there's MasterCard?
Yes.
Some things are priceless for everything MasterCard. Yeah. So what can we bring that back at least?
Everything else, there's 28% interest.
That is so true. That is so true.
There's got to be some values that's going to get us to the common good, like our founding fathers intended. Not me, but y'all. But we have a chance. We have a chance now to make the promise of America. That line in the Constitution where all men are created equal. We have an opportunity now, for the first time in our history, for it to actually mean what that says.
Right.
We have an opportunity. Let's not waste it.
So that brings up a good point, and I'm glad that you brought that up. So we as progressives are literally asking for, can we be the country that we say we are? Can we actually do this? But there's also a push now to revise the Constitution. And because the premise is that, okay, when this was written, it was wealthy white landowners that represented like 5% of the entire population that was here. We did have some changes with the Senate so that it was less like the appointed House of Lords and more elected, but we haven't gone far enough. So have you given any thought to either just maybe we do what the Constitution says, or do we need to rework it? Is it time?
I like the Constitution, and the fact that it was made by white slave-owning landowners just gives me the best feeling, because they knew what they wanted, right? They were rich. They knew what good taste was. They knew what they deserved, and we deserve it. We all deserve it too. The Constitution is a living document. We can amend it. We haven't amended it for the longest time. We have the power to. The Constitution gives us the power to. We're just being lazy and divisive. We could literally amend the Constitution tomorrow to get money out of politics. We could do that. So, but if you like, I don't know. What do you think about that? What do you think about the revising?
I'm wary of it because I recognize that the initial push came from the Republicans, and they were working on changing the seats of the governors, because the governors can call for, if you get a certain number of them, they can call for a constitutional convention to start writing it.
Exactly.
So I was wary of, a wolf in sheep's clothing kind of thing. Well, if they're doing this, because I was at the time living in Illinois when they were doing the right to work and all these really creative policies that were named as something good, but actually were terrible for workers and working families.
I know Republicans are the best at that.
Yeah.
They're always right to work. It's hilarious. Right to work.
Okay. So Shane's weighing in on this topic. He says, Mark Charles made great points. And for those of you who didn't know who Mark Charles was, and I'll admit the name was familiar to me, he ran for president. He is an indigenous, I forget which tribe he's with. I want to say Navajo, but he was indigenous, running for president as an independent. And of course, networks never gave him any type of opportunity to weigh in on debates, but he made great points about revising the Constitution, which had racism and sexism in it, as well as the wolf pack who wants to remove corporate influence. But to your point, Tommy, we can do that through amendments, and that, it takes a lot less to add an amendment than it does to open and revise the entire Constitution.
Yeah, and then who's revising it? These Democrats and Republicans? Nah, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, we're getting things like the TTT back in the talk again. Oh boy, talk about the end of organized unionism, right?
Goodness.
Oh, it's the same old. And Biden provided the evidence during the campaign when he said nothing will fundamentally change.
Yeah, that was the most honest stuff. Yeah. He was, and guess what? He was honest because he was talking to his owners. So yes. That's the only time Biden's honest, when he's talking to the people that own him.
All right, so we're almost at the top of the hour, but before we get out of here, Tommy, you have been a wonderful, wonderful guest. How do people tune in, and how do they follow you and watch more of your content and become part of Tommy Nation?
Guys, join the fight at www.tommynationpolitics.com. You can send me messages or for ideas, or if you want to be on the show, facebook.com/TommyNationPolitics. And I'm also on Rumble, Twitch, MySpace too. Yes, MySpace still exists.
MySpace, no! Oh, that's awesome.
Still on MySpace.
I just had a flashback.
Looks completely different now.
Okay.
But, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
I'll be following you Kerri. Don't worry, okay? And we're with you. I'm progressing.
All right. Thank you so much, Tommy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so everybody who's tuning in this morning, really appreciate that. And do go out and follow Tommy Nation. It's important that we support independent media, particularly independent media that is adhering to ethics. That is supremely important. And then before we get out of here this morning, I sincerely want to thank everybody who has been weighing in. Our audience has grown. And like I said, I truly appreciate, particularly when you guys push back on something that we've said or whatever, because we want to get it right. And I think you guys have just been phenomenal, supportive, and we have those conversations, including the really tough ones. And we do it, kind of in that family atmosphere. So I love that about everything that we have done over, what are we at, 160 episodes, 170? I don't know.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah. So you have grown with us, and we appreciate everything that has happened. So I, at this time, do not know where we will be. But I know that Andy and I are not done in the fight. We love what we do. We love you. I just know that this will be the last one, particularly for me, on this network. So thank you.
And I think that's a great way to end this show. Thank you, Kerri. And I guess I'll just say, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks.
Take care.
We bout that, ayy. We in the zone, we out here, yeah. Spitting the facts, how it's supposed to be. Hair of the dog, we keeping it G. Whoa.